Good morning. Good morning. We're just about to go live. Wow, it's the first time in a while.
It's been a while. And good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So we're doing this.
We are doing this. We are doing this. Hey, Andre.
Hey, Tara. It's been a while.
It's been a while, and we're in different places.
Again.
Yeah. It seems like it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it seems like it has been. Yeah, you've been out of town for a minute, and then you were supposed to come back earlier, but then you got a cold.
Yeah, I got more than a cold. I got COVID, sadly.
Right.
But yeah, isolation, super fun. I haven't been outdoors or out of my condo in an entire week, which is
so maybe you're just breathing
crazy.
that germy air that you're feeding yourself.
Yeah, I'm just feeding my own germy air. But thanks everyone for joining us. Like we said, if you missed the very beginning, it's Tara. It's welcome. Oh my God. This is the problem with COVID. I feel like my head is still kind of stuffy, but whatever. Welcome to Mondays with Tara and Andre. So we come here live every week at 11 a.m. Eastern to share our hot tips on how you can have amazing open or polyamorous relationship like ours.
Yeah, awesome.
So we have an awesome relationship, don't we?
We sure do. Yeah. What do you think is the biggest key to our having such an awesome relationship? What would you say the number one factor is?
Well, I should ask people if they could guess in the chat what we'd answer.
What do we always say?
What do we always say?
One word that we say.
Communication.
For sure.
Oh, Lisa got it. Communication. Yes.
Yeah.
I on the way to Toronto, well, actually on my way to my friend's cottage first and back to Toronto, I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I love Sex with Emily. As people probably know, I've talked about her before, and she always says communication is lubrication.
It could be, absolutely, yeah. Well, it also can be part of the foreplay too, right? I think that very often, unfortunately, we end up hooking up and going straight to the nasty, as they say. But there's a lot of enjoyment, a lot of pleasure, a lot of lubrication in having that oral flirtation, right? Being able to talk about things, being able to create it in our fantasies and announce it. And it's tantalizing, right? It's inviting. So yeah, we should learn to communicate. But not only just the fantasies, we also need to be able to communicate what we're liking, but what we're perhaps not liking quite as much, or what we're wanting a little bit more of. So communication is great all around. I never have heard anyone ever say, I communicate too much. It's just too much communication, and I'm too well understood. I'm too well informed.
Well, sometimes, I mean, I agree if it's communication, that's progressive communication. But I think sometimes, and you probably know this from your own clients and my own clients, sometimes it seems like we're always communicating over and over about the same issue. And that can be a frustrating situation where it's like the elephant stays in the room because we're not progressing on to the next thing, as you say. So
you absolutely hit it right there. Yeah, it is the progressive communication, ideally, right? Otherwise, if it's in a loop, well, then is it a resistance or a defense? We have to look at that, but that's a whole nother kettle of fish.
Whole other topic. So, in honor of National Coming Out Day, which was last week, October 11th, like I said, we're back for our first live training, and our topic today is 5 ways to explore other aspects of my sexuality now that I'm open. So yeah, sexy topic today. I love sexy topics.
Yeah, they are sexy. Yeah.
Wow. So make sure you stay to the end. Oh my God, I sound really stuffy. Because we have a special word, and we have a really awesome checklist that I'm putting together, which I'm super excited about, that we're going to use on ourselves, Andre.
Oh,
surprise.
Wow.
And then we'll share with people who are interested. So we'll tell you how to get that a little later on. But before we jump in, I want to know from the people who are watching, even if you're in the replay, is let us know, yes, no, unsure. Part of the reason for choosing to be open or polyamorous was so that, or some other form of non-monogamy, was so that you could explore different aspects of your sexuality.
Oh, that's interesting. So are you asking or suggesting that we might have gone into this for the purpose of being able to display different aspects? Or do we come up to our surprise that like now we've come here and we might be in situations that we not had expected? We've found ourselves in being in different aspects of our own self.
Yeah, it could be. It could be either. So I would love to hear from people what they think. Um, because it could be, like you said, something that you planned. Like I
Mhm.
opened up, and we've certainly heard from people in the group that part of the reason they did that was to explore other aspects of their sexuality. For example, if they felt like they were bisexual or always bisexual and they were with an opposite gender partner, for example, or same gender. I mean, it doesn't matter. Or it might have come up as something like a surprise that you didn't expect because of exposure.
Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. So either way, the likelihood is that you may have come across things that you would not have otherwise been introduced to, whether it's through being just the organic experience or being intentional and determined to manifest that. It's fantastic, right? I mean, you're opening up your experience of the universe.
Uh-oh. Excuse me. Okay. So I don't see any comments in the chat, but we'll give you an opportunity to keep putting that. Yes, no, maybe is exploring other aspects of your sexuality something that you might have anticipated. So,
Mhm.
but let's first talk a bit about what we mean by
Yeah.
exploring other aspects of sexuality, because maybe that will help, because that might be too broad of a question.
Mhm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Why don't we start by saying what we mean by that? So, what comes to mind then when you bring that up?
Well, exploring other aspects of your sexuality could include, it could be as simple as different types of pleasure that you may not have tried before for any
Interesting.
reason. So,
Such as?
well, I mean, I recently heard this week from a client that they didn't tell me what they did, but I suspect it was something exploring the P spot, for example.
The P spot being.
The prostate. So the prostate is an area in the male that's accessed, I think, more generally from the anus, and when stimulated, can be quite pleasurable.
Mhm. Most generally from the interior, right, of the anus, but can also be felt just above the anus and below the testicles. There's an area, I could never pronounce it, starts with the P. But anyway,
Yes, I heard
from
that this week that you can do it from the outside as well. I don't know if this is effective.
it's different. It's different, but it's an invitation to explore. It's an
Mhm.
invitation to find out what feels best for you and how might you go about it. But it's so interesting because it's quite interesting to me as somebody who grew up as a cis male, how the idea of anybody, anything, even just thinking about having our anus touched automatically put us into a whole nother category. It was representational of our identity, our sexuality, that, I'm a straight male, but if anything should touch my ass, all of a sudden, the world is going to come to an end or be set on fire. It'd be fantastic. Who knows what's going to happen? But it's definitely a big statement. And I wonder if that kind of created some level of taboo or prohibition where people might not otherwise go about exploring that until much later on. They come into a different venue where things are a little bit more acceptable, a little bit more curious, a little bit more progressive, and we can go to it and find out that it doesn't have to mean all of those big things. It could simply be, yes, perineum. Thank you. So it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be this whole big statement, this big political thing, simply because you allow yourself some curiosity, some exploration, some situational advantage.
Yeah, like pleasure can just be pleasure. If something's pleasurable, why do we go away from it? But I think if it is unfamiliar, or if we've, grown up in a certain way, we may prevent ourselves or deny ourselves from different types of pleasure.
Mhm.
So I'd be curious to hear if people that have had that experience. I mean, I know for me, this is not particularly something I would have denied, but one of the things, as you know, that I've been exploring is more of my pleasure in terms of my internal vulva. And I have a special tool, the cervix wand, that I'm super excited about, that I've been doing that with. And, I think in the past, I might have been less open to doing that sort of exploring, even though that I'd say that's pretty natural to do some of your own exploring. I might have denied myself that, or not have been exposed to it, like you said. So,
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people did come from an environment that disallowed them to be explorative of even themselves, that there was a great moral judgment attached to it, and that did not invite any kind of exploration. In fact, it might have more likely invited a lot of shame and guilt or embarrassment to have that. And it's unfortunate because our sexuality is a gift from the gods. So it's all part of the human experience, and it's all completely normal and acceptable.
Exactly. So another way that you might want to explore or considering exploring in terms of your sexuality is different situations. For example, like threesomes or group sex or parties, like sexy parties or sex clubs.
Yes, and that absolutely. So had you ever been to one before? Had you ever thought about it? Was it on
I
your radar?
mean, no, I don't even. So this is the interesting question, and I think it would be fun for us to discuss a little bit. Is like, had we anticipated that these were things that we'd be exposed to when we first got together? And I'd probably say no. I
Mhm.
mean, I definitely fantasized about being with women, and I'd always been attracted to women, and I had like before we met like one experience. But before that, and even before that, that was sort of my first exposure to non-monogamy, and hadn't anticipated that it might be a possibility. I'm not sure why, but maybe again, like how you're brought up or what you believe or the relationship escalator, all those things.
So I wonder what was present then that allowed for you to feel that it was okay to go into these areas. Like if somebody's coming into this, they have their fantasies and they think, wow, it's fun. Like, I'd love to jump out of a plane, but to actually go ahead and jump out of a plane might be a bigger deal. How do you go into this and then open it up and allow for those kind of curiosities or expressions?
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Fantastic. Let's do it.
Okay. So, but some other aspects that people might want to explore. So, can be other things like kinky desires, like BDSM, role play. These might be things that they hadn't tried before, if they were monogamous or more vanilla, let's say. And then,
Yeah, but it is interesting though, right? Because in my experience of being monogamous, maybe it was part of the partners that I was with and who I was at the time, but also the model did not necessarily seem to lend itself to such things as gender fluidity, because it was very much in a binary kind of relationship, right? So either I was male, or I was heterosexual, or I was gay, but there didn't seem to be a lot of expression to be in relationships where there was that kind of fluidity. And being in a kind of open relationship, being in a relationship that might lend itself more to role play, BDSM, kink desires, seems to lend itself to these different types of expressions. The model seems more accessible in that way.
Yeah, I love that. It makes it so much fun though, like, doesn't it?
It does seem to be quite fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I think that you covered sort of the last part, but engaging in sexual activities with other gender identities that you might not have been exposed to previously. So, yeah. So
I wonder though, as you say that about different gender identities that we might express it outwardly with other people, I wonder though, was it already present and not as expressed outwardly? So do we have this in ourselves, or are we even perhaps unaware on certain things, and then we go into certain situations and say, wow, you know what, that was interesting. I didn't know that I was attracted to this, that, or the other thing.
yeah, no, for sure. That might be the case. It may have been dormant, or you may have been denying it, not even
Yeah.
realized it, right?
Yeah.
Until it being exposed to it. I think back in my own life and I say, oh yeah, I've always been attracted to women, but I don't think I really knew that until, like, if I think back to certain situations, I go, that totally makes sense. I remember, for example, going to a dress up party with my friend, and we dressed up as Wayne and Garth, and I was Garth. And so it was on this boat, and everyone was dressed up as sort of celebrities. And I was having a lot of fun doing the swing thing with like sexy women. I definitely was picking out the people that I was attracted to and flirting, but that dressing up allowed me to feel comfortable to do that where I might not have otherwise. So it's kind of interesting to think back at situations and go, that's interesting.
Right. What did that role playing actually reveal, right? But it
Exactly.
is so fantastic to go into different characters, to put these things on, and we can allow for that expression, and then we can take it off. and just leave it there. If there's part of us that finds it, not yet fully acceptable, we can just slide into that costume and come out of that. And it's a wonderful way of kind of introducing it. And then afterwards, we can simply reflect a little bit. We can allow for its expression and see, what was it like? Did it really turn me on? Was it just a novel thing? Is it something I'm not wanting to do it again? But we allow ourselves to experience it simply by being open to the idea about it, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, but I tagged someone in your Sparkle Kitten video you did last year. And so there's been like renewed comments on it, but that was a great talk that we did with you when you just decided one day to be like dress up as Sparkle Kitten, who's your alter ego.
Are you sure that was me?
It was you.
How do you know I'm not the alter ego?
Oh, well, that's interesting. I would love to hear from people if they think that this version of Andre is actually the alter ego and Sparkle Kitten is the real person.
I think they're both real. I think it's just different facets, right? We are in a spectrum, and I think that spectrum is plastic, and we might change over time, and we might change depending on who we're with or what situation we are, or what we're needing or what we're wanting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So let's jump into the 5 things you can do to explore other aspects of your sexuality. And I think we've touched on a few of these things, but let's go over them because, it's nice to have a list.
It sure is. So number 1 is do some inner exploration and research, right? This is what I call the data collecting, right? We want to find out, we want to inform ourselves, because when we can know, then we can share it with others and they can know. And also when they've done this work, they can tell us what they're into. So I think it's a great way. But it starts at home, right? We have to be curious and honest with ourselves about what we're interested in. So we ask ourselves some questions, right? Are there things that I'm excited to do but might scare me? Sometimes when we're defending against something or we're afraid of it, it's actually because we have a desire for it. And the desire is so strong, but we're not quite yet ready or knowing how to do it. But we might find softer, easier ways to explore it, perhaps even demonstrate it and see if it is to our liking, right? So is there something I've always wanted to try but have denied? So maybe now is the time to do it. And are there different avenues of pleasure I want to explore on my own or with my partner? And hopefully, ideally, we have loving partners who are able to allow for these expressions and without their own expectations of us. So we can simply go at it and find out what does feel good, what is of pleasure to me.
Yeah. I liked your point about like things that excite but scare you and how you approach things if they're exciting but scary.
Right. But to that, I'll always say, and I think it's almost my duty to always be the one to advocate for the STI testing and consent and public awareness. So we always we want to go at things, but we always want to do it where we feel safe and comfortable. And we are always, always, always within our rights to grant and take back our consent. That's always got to be paramount, right?
Yeah.
So we want to go to things that scare us, but in a safe and healthy way, in a secure way.
Yeah, for sure. When I was thinking scare us, I was thinking things that are like new and uncomfortable and all the thing.
Well, that's yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's wonderful.
I'm just smiling at Drang's comment that sparkle is more true. The psychological version is a mask. 75% sparkle.
I would have put it closer to 69, but I'll take 75.
I love it. Okay, some other things you can do. You can do some online research.
Other than porn?
Yeah, sure. There's all kinds of like podcasts and places and that sort of thing where you can kind of do some digging. But porn is definitely something that you can look at. I mean, if you're against, the conventional porn, you could also seek out ethical sites. There's lots of ethical porn sites, and you could just search ethical porn and you'll find it. There was one called Porn Not Porn, but I couldn't find it. There's another name for it now. But like there's some articles. There's an article I can't do it from here.
I was speaking to somebody the other day who was talking to the idea that their son has grown up with porn being the influencer, the educator of their sexuality. So they are removed from their son and have very little contact. But then they do know that their son kind of uses Pornhub as the sex instructor. Where they live, there's no such instruction, and unfortunately, they do not have yet the relationship with their son to be able to talk about it. But there's a lot of great things to learn on the internet, but there's also some things that are misinformed. So yeah, definitely do the online exploration, but look at where the source is coming from and see if you can have just more than one source.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about kids and youth, there's definitely better places. We did a whole episode with
Yeah.
Ashley Robertson, who's a sex educator, and she educates children and youth on sex things. And that was she had some great resources about places that you could go to teach kids about sex and all kinds of sex, not just, the standard thing. So, and she's also a great resource. So I'll just plug in for there. I realized I tried to copy the link, but it posted it in our YouTube page because I guess that's the only place we can post while we're live. But we'll put some links in the chat after. So online research we talked about, talking about fantasies. Are there fantasies that we have that maybe we enjoy that we might want to take from fantasy to reality?
But there are some fantasies that we might not ever want to make into reality, and that's okay too, right? So there are certain things that we might not ever want to share, and that's perfectly fantastic too. I think the most important part in all those things is if we can really resist any type of embarrassment or self-judgment or shame connected to it. There's simply
for sure.
sexual
I
thought.
was just going to say that. It's like you read my mind about the fantasies. Okay, so number one was do some inner exploration, research. And then number two, which is always our favorite thing, is talk about it. So communication as lubrication.
Yeah, and so talking about it, right? You often suggest that we do the yes, no, maybe list. And we ask our partners to do the same. And I think that's wonderful. I really do. But one of my things is I really try to challenge myself to say yes more often, to try and say yes, simply for the idea that it's almost like one of those graphs where, when you have the yes, no, and how the no might kind of be the terminus of that flow chart. As when you say yes, it opens up another thing and opens up another thing. So once we've had these experiences, we've gathered the data, we can decide if it's for us or not. But we can't really do it the same way if we've never explored, if we've never looked into it, if we've never read about it, if we've never talked about it. So be open to the ideas, at least be open enough to have curiosities to it, discussions about it. There's certain things we know we'll never want to try, and that's fine. But we should ask ourselves to remain open to ideas, ask ourselves to remain open to different ways of thinking about it and to be talking about it.
Yeah, that's why I think the maybe is a good option, because maybe is let's talk about it more, or maybe can be like, I'm interested in this, but maybe I need to do this first. So I'm just in the process of developing our very own TNA yes, no, maybe, or sexual interest inventory list. Like there's a bunch online and I like different aspects of them. So I'm going to pull together our very own. And if people are interested in that, drop pleasure in the chat. It might be a few days until I get it out, but definitely drop pleasure or send me a DM and we'll share that with you. I'm super excited. Another resource, we've got a few of these now. I don't know, Andre, I think we're getting time to start thinking about writing a book.
I think so. I like how you say it might take you time to get it out, because we have a different, I guess, orientation, because I would have said it would take me a little bit of time to get it in to the file. You get it out, you get it in. Either way, as long as it gets there.
Okay, so if you want that checklist, drop pleasure in the chat.
When you asked for Monday morning, you knew it wasn't going to be grade A shelf, top shelf stuff, right? Well, anyway, we'll try. It gets funnier as the week goes by.
What are you saying? It's not
my humor is Monday morning humor. So
I love Monday morning humor.
Okay, so let's go at it. You're right. It's wonderful.
Okay, so talk about it. So part of talking about it can be like doing a list, or I think again, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, and I love Sex with Emily. She talks about like how to bring up things in terms of sexual discussions, and she has the 3 T's, which are tone, turf, and timing. So when you're having a conversation about sex, for example, you might not want to tell your partner that you don't like something when you're like in bed in the middle of it. You know what I mean? It might be something to discuss outside the bedroom. So that's kind of where turf comes in.
Well, yes, but with the asterisks of you might want not to have that conversation while it's happening, ideally, but if ever there's something happening and you're not wanting it, you're always within your rights to hit the stop button and say, no, I don't like this. And that's
Oh
it.
yeah, for sure. I didn't mean that at all.
No, I know that was not your intention, but again, I always feel it's part of my role to announce that and let it be known, because unfortunately, some people do go into this and they have a personality that they will want to consider the other person's feelings and may not announce their own preferences simply because they want to make sure the other person feels loved, supported, cared for, whatever the consideration is, and they might not go at it as easily to say, well, this is not something that I'm wanting. So we have to know that it's always paramount that we should announce these things.
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally didn't. Thanks for making that that clarification. That's good.
But it was not to suggest that you would advocate for anything other.
No, no. And it's also the other asterisk I mean is like also you can be some of the things you could say in the moment is how much you're enjoying something, or if you want more of something, or like what you might like, what else you might like, depending on your partner, right? Like some people may be not open to receiving it in that moment. I know you like the encouragement. Would you agree?
By all means, I love when my partners or lovers tell me what it is they're wanting or what they're not wanting. I might be doing something thinking that they want it, and only to find out that they're not wanting it. It's like, oh, well, that's great. So now we don't have to do this. But tell me what you want, and I'll tell you what I want. And I think that's a beautiful marriage.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So if you're outside the bedroom, like, and there's something maybe you want to bring up that's maybe new or uncomfortable, you're not sure how your partner might take it, a way you can talk about it is like, I was watching something and it seemed like something I like to try. What do you think? You know what I mean? Like approaching it and tone, obviously, with curiosity and openness, right?
Mm-hmm. But outside the bedroom, right? So the turf really does help a lot. A lot of the expectations or pressure are removed, and it's more of a neutral ground to talk about things that we might not have really explored yet.
Yeah. So we talked about doing some inner exploration and research, talking about it, which I think should be an ongoing process. And then the third thing you could do is connect with communities of like-minded people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you are new to it and you might think, well, am I the only one on the planet who thinks this way? And yet you find a community of people who are like-minded, think, wow, this is perfectly normal and acceptable. This is viable. And, these people get it. And it's just a good feeling, a warm, fuzzy feeling to know that there's others like us, like you out there.
Yeah. I think if there's something that we find alluring, there's probably others that do as well. And I know people, like one of the things people like to try or experiment with, but are sometimes afraid to, is things related to BDSM or kinky things. And what I think is amazing about the BDSM communities out there is that they hold events where you can go and meet people outside that like dungeon environment. So like a munch, for example.
Right. And one of the other things I love about the BDSM community is very often they will announce their concern about consent, right? That they will always want it to be a safe space. And they even have the traffic light signal, right? The green, amber, and red light. So they'll have a safety word that they might use for the red part, but they'll have gradations that says, okay, we're going to do this. And at any point when you feel, or should you feel, or if you're not feeling it, we'll let it be known by communicating where we're at by using the colors of the traffic light, right? So green is I'm having a good time. Yellow is, well, I'm not quite too sure, and stop. Well, we all know what that means, right?
Yeah.
But they're very skilled at wanting to communicate these things openly. It's a wonderful model for the rest of us to integrate as well.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's always a traffic light system, but it's definitely something that's negotiated in advance, which I like. Like it's very, people who have been doing this for a while, there's very much a, what do you call it? Before care, system where you talk about boundaries and all kinds of things, like what your safe words are, etc., in advance, so that you're prepared. You're prepared, and everyone's prepared, and it's happening in consensual situation. And then there's also aftercare, like how do I want to be treated after? For example, if somebody's like beating you with a paddle. After it, you might want to be covered with a blanket or, cuddled or whatever it is, right? So these are all negotiated in advance. And I think this is great for any type of sexual activity, is to have these kind of conversations about boundaries and how you want to be supported. So talking goes back to talking.
Yeah, it's all about communication, right? Communication, consent, and respect, for sure.
Yeah. So the BDSM community definitely has local munches and probably local groups you can look into. Polyamorous groups do as well, have similar things, munches or get-togethers. I know that there's a group here in Toronto we went to. In order to attend their parties, for example, you have to go to a pre-event first, and you have to be invited to that event by somebody. And there's all kinds of groups out there that you can get connected to. So connect with communities. So that's number 3. So number 4 is try things out. Yeah,
it's always fun, right? Make it fun, but it is fun to try new things. And sometimes I think you might get like the inspiration and then all of a sudden pull back and say, oh, this is crazy, like what am I doing? Go for it anyway. So what? Check all of those considerations or prohibitions at the door and allow yourself some fun exploration. Approach it with curiosity and fun.
Yeah, and do it with people that you're comfortable with too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. When we feel secure, it really lends itself to greater exploration, right?
Right. And we talked about talking about boundaries and pre-care and aftercare in advance. That's super important. And I think you made this point earlier, which I think is great, is approach it with, like I said, curiosity and non-judgment about what it means. So we might be exploring different avenues of pleasure that are new. Yeah.
But that non-judgmental part, we might not have come from a place that was so permissive, but we might now invite ourselves to be there simply by saying that whatever thought we're having, whatever feeling we're having, whatever impulse we're having, it is somewhere on the spectrum of human sexuality, and everybody has experienced some form of sexuality. So it's on that spectrum, and you are not necessarily weird or deviant or corrupt in any way, unless you want to be, but it's all part of the human experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and you don't have to apply a label to it either. If you're not comfortable, you can, if you want, you can proudly say I'm bisexual or, whatever it is, right? But you don't have to. It can be situational. Like some people enjoy activities with the same gender identity when they're in certain situations like group sex and stuff like that, but they're not actively looking for people to date that way. And that's fine too. But, you can, or you don't have to apply labels if you don't want to.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So that's number 4, is try things out. And number 5 is
try again. Well, we often say, try everything at least twice, right? The simplest example that I can think of is chicken feet. The first time I tried it, I was appalled. I thought it was horrific. I did not ever want to try it again. Once was enough. Thank you very much. And then the second time when I was invited, I quickly said no. And yet I heard myself say, well, try everything twice. And it was absolutely delicious. Yeah. But had I not tried it again, I'd never known. I would have had that one impression. That would have been enough.
Yeah.
So see if you can challenge yourself to remain open of heart, to be curious of things, to explore it, because it will enrich your experience of the universe. It'll make for a larger experience.
Yeah. I think there's some things, you might even want to try them 3 times or 4 times.
Some things, absolutely. Well, yeah. Then you find out what works and you want to keep trying it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think there's some things that we want to try once we're back together that we need to,
I'd like to try that 7 again. 777. Keep trying it.
777. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So that's the 5 things. So I'll just go over them quickly again. So do some inner exploration and research. Mm-hmm. Talk about it.
Right.
Connect with communities of like-minded people. Mm-hmm. Try things out. And try again. Those are the 5 things.
Yay.
Yay. We did it. Oh my God. I think I'm going to have to go rest after this. I'm still like, anything I do, like talking, makes me tired. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And I'm almost out of water. So
it sounds like you might need a house call from Dr. Dre there.
No, I so do. I miss you. I can't wait till we're together again. My initial plan was to come back tomorrow, but I think that I probably might need to hang out here till Thursday. So,
Well, I'll do my public service announcement then. So just like a cold, STIs are our responsibility, right? So if you have a cold, you don't go to a party because you know that you're not going to be spreading that much love. You might be spreading some germs. And heaven forbid, if we should ever have contracted an STI, we must do the responsible thing and kind of shut it down until we have taken the appropriate measures. So I ask that we always get tested regularly, practice safe sex, and be a responsible, loving community member.
awesome. Okay, so before we go, I'm just gonna pop up the screen. So if you want to say drop pleasure in the chat or send me a DM, once I have it ready, I will send you our like sexual interest inventory. Do you like that better than yes, no, maybe?
What's the difference?
Sexual interest inventory. I don't know. It just is as a name.
Yeah.
I think I still want to do yes, no, maybe, but
I like the yes, no, maybe because it sounds. Well, I think I like the yes, no, maybe. It sounds easy for me. There are three things I can tell you. I can tell you yes, I can tell you no, and if I don't know, well, then it's maybe. It sounds pretty easy.
And I think we'll have yes, no, maybes for other things, like in terms. So I think yes, no, maybe this will be yes, no, maybe as it relates to a sexual interest inventory, but we'll have other yes, no, maybes in terms of like relational dynamics too.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, which is a great segue into if people are interested in being notified when we are going to be running the next cohort of open relationship and polyamory mastery, our group program, you can go to this link and add your name to the wait list. Don't worry, you don't have to drop any money or anything like that. It's just so we know that you might be interested. You can also reach out and chat with us, and I will drop that link when we're done. I'm super excited about our program. There's all kinds of things like checklists like we talk about today and activities that we've tested with our clients that have been like super successful in that. So it'll be great to get it running. We had a bit of a pause due to some personal things, but I'm excited to make it happen soon. So
as am I. It's chock full of nuts, as they would say.
Chock full of nuts. You're a nut. Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining us. If you missed any part of it, the replay will be in the guides and in the featured section of the group. And drop pleasure in the chat or send me a DM, and I will send you that awesome yes, no, maybe list.
Fantastic.
All right, babe. I will talk to you soon. And everybody, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.